So, hi everyone, welcome to Lectora Live. We're live right now, and we've got with us Karen Engowa. She is, actually, you work with the CDC, right?
Yep, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
She's an instructional technologist, and next to her, we've got Sergey Snegirev, who is the CEO of BranchTrack, another well-known product in the Lectora community as well as other communities. His product works with all, I think, at least 3 of the major authoring tools, and it works standalone. So how are you doing, Sergey?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show again. We haven't been on air for quite a while, so it's great to be back on air again.
I think it's been like about 3 or 4 weeks. It's the Lectora community is not one that wants to go on camera. It's real interesting. I don't know why. I mean, we've done another show, eLearn Chat, for about 7-8 years, and we have no problem getting guests for that one. This one, it's tough. It's like, yeah, we'll call you on Skype. Skype? Camera? I can't do it.
Yes, we're a bunch of introverts. You know,
maybe.
A lot of science nerds.
Maybe. It's just sort of interesting. We can never get them to actually show up. Not quite sure why. But anyway, we've already gone through all the shots, so what we can do is we can actually start the show. Might as well start it now. So we'll start the show in 3, 2, and 1. Hi everyone, welcome to Lectora Live, your inside track into Lectora. Well, today we've got a great show. We've got Karen Engowa. She is an instructional technologist working with the as CDC, Centers for Disease Control. Is that in Alpharetta too?
No, it's actually in Atlanta proper.
Atlanta proper.
I get to work from home sometimes.
That's fun. That's good. Yeah, because that's a lot of traffic in Atlanta too.
Especially now. I don't know if you heard about our bridge collapse, but it's been exciting.
That's true. And our co-host, Sergey Snegirev, is with us today from Latvia. Are you in Latvia today?
Yes, I am today.
So we are covering a lot of time zones today, and Sergey's a little bit later. Is it about...
It's 8 p.m.
I was just going to say 8. Okay. You changed time recently, or do you stay the same time?
Yeah, we changed. So for a short spell, we were a little bit closer time zone-wise to the United States. Now we're back 7 hours away from East Coast, 10 hours away from you.
10 hours from us. Okay. Sounds good. Let's do our intro. No, it's playing.
In the cloud,
We just can't hear it. Whether it's not
Okay.
a tidal area,
So everything animates in the way it should.
And we are back. Yeah, that's interesting. I should have let you know ahead of time. We're not sending you the sound from any of the music or videos that we play because it causes too much latency. We never know, especially with Sergey being far away, he may get the sound 3 to 10 seconds after we do, especially if it's music. We've noticed that one of our co-hosts is in Australia, and when he gets sound, literally it can be 15 seconds. It's bad. The minute we turn the sound off, it's instant. Yeah, weird. But because the audio portion, when you add the videos and stuff, just gets large. So should have warned you ahead of time.
No problem.
But anyway, so Karen, how did you wind up into the world of e-learning? Because we talked a little bit pre-show. You actually have a degree in vocal performance. You were a mezzo-soprano opera singer, which is pretty cool. And you've done a lot of other things. How did you wind up in the world of e-learning?
Yeah, it's kind of a long and winding road. I always joke I was a professional opera singer when I was 2 sizes smaller, go figure. But I started off in music, but like I was telling you before we went on air, my dad is like one of these uber geeks. So my sister and I learned to program in BASIC, and we had, he built a PC out of a Heathkit, and we had, I don't know, the Ataris. I had a Mac Plus in undergrad, so we were doing, we were involved in computer stuff just as a side thing, as part of being part of my geek family. And then when I was singing and I needed to find a better starving artist job, I ended up teaching English as a second language. And I've got a certificate in TESOL also. And then as I was teaching, I started teaching myself how to program in HTML. So this was really, really early on, before there were any authoring tools. Maybe there was Hot Dog. I don't even think it had come out yet. I'm dating myself. And so the school, I was programming web pages, and I was having some fun teaching my ESL students how to also program code very simple web pages, because in order to do that, you've got to do it in some English, and then they were on the web, which at that time was primarily English, so it was a really good exercise for them. Then the college asked me, this was Lansing Community College, it asked me to could I create some professional development courses to be offered online for the other faculty at the school, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. So started designing and developing e-learning before there was the term e-learning, so kind of got into it a little bit haphazardly that way, but it's been a lot of fun, and now that's really the focus of my work at CDC, is designing and developing e-learning and consulting on emerging technologies.
It's amazing how varied the backgrounds of e-learning people are. I don't think there's any other industry in the world that can boast that. I mean, every time we talk to someone on this show or off show, they got into e-learning I got into e-learning by accident almost, and I think that's why e-learning conferences are great. You talk to someone and they have such diverse backgrounds that it's always an interesting conversation. You are never locked in the e-learning world in that way, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think the career, don't you think that this whole field sort of developed before there was any kind of professional degree required or training? We were all kind of self-taught at the beginning, and I think it's still got that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, we have a project manager in our company that is now, she took a sabbatical from work. She went to university to get her master's in e-learning, and she's going to be the first person in our company who actually has formal education in e-learning. So I don't know, she's going to be all showy off about it.
It's so true. It is true. I think most of the people I've ever met in the field, only recently are they starting to get degrees in instructional technology and design and education. And it's just interesting. But a lot just came into it either by accident or they had an interest, sort of. But and again, a lot of people who've been in for a long time haven't really. There were no careers in this in the old days. Everybody was just, hey, you over there, me. Yeah, can you do e-learning? I don't know. Okay, good, you're in. It's kind of the way it was. It was sort of interesting. And by the way, Karen, you were telling us when you were born, and you don't look anywhere near your age. Just so you know, you look quite youthful.
Thank you. Yeah, I was born in 1965. I'm not ashamed to say it. So I'm barely Gen X. I think, kinda, maybe. So,
I'm probably a middle boomer. I'm 54.
Yeah.
So. And Sergey's a kid. He's young.
Yeah, let's not go there. I'm a kid.
So, enjoy it while it lasts.
Now, you did another thing I found interesting. You were a mezzo-soprano, and you also got a black belt in Shaolin Kung Fu, which is sort of interesting. Not a lot of people do that. And so you were a martial artist for a while.
Yeah, for a little bit. I started when I was in college. I was learning Hapkido and things like that. And I will say, sadly, got into it as so many women do, because I had a stalker issue. So kind of got into martial arts is less of a hobby and more of a self-preservation thing. But then when I moved back to Atlanta, I found this Chinese Shaolin Kung Fu school that I really liked the instructor. It's one of these things people ask, what martial arts should I study? And I said, find an instructor in a school that you like their vibe. And this was a school I really liked. So, and I am not athletically inclined. I was the last kid picked for every team in every sport in school. Gym was like my anxiety moment all through growing up. So I worked really, really hard to, to try to master all the forms, and it's something I'm very, very proud of and wish I were still doing. But hopefully we'll be able to get into it again.
Yeah, you said your kids are in high school right now, getting close to college?
Yep, I've got one that's a freshman in high school and one that's doing a postgraduate year before she moves on.
That's cool. That's really good. What's she studying?
Well, she's thinking about cyber operations. She's a recruited athlete, and she's got one more hurdle to get over, and then she'll be able to play lacrosse at the United States Naval Academy, which is a real honor.
Wow.
So we're not quite there yet. Don't have, until it's in writing, can't celebrate that yet. But she's working very hard to do that, and is considering cyber ops is a major.
That's pretty good. That's fun. What does your boy like? Now, what does your boy like doing?
He loves history. He's less a math and science person, and more of, he loves history and social studies and reading. They're both lacrosse players. My daughter's a goalie, a left-handed goalkeeper, and my son plays midi and does face-off, and then he also plays football. He's the athlete.
But he's likely to go into e-learning based on his interests. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. He would like to be a YouTuber. I think that's what he would like to be.
Yeah.
Like all 4-year-old folks, he would probably like to be a YouTuber for a living.
Yeah, it's weird to say for someone who is co-hosting a YouTube show, but I just recently discovered how incredibly popular the top YouTube channels are. It's unbelievable. There are like millions and millions, if not tens of millions, people subscribed and watching, and the number of views on some shows which are just unbelievable. Unbelievably ridiculous maybe, but there are also some nice shows like science shows that are really popular. It's really a whole new generation of television. I myself hardly watch real TV anymore. I watch all my favorite shows on on HBO online or on Comedy Central or on YouTube like this one. But it's really unbelievable, and it emerged so quickly. So you can't laugh at someone who's going to be a professional YouTuber.
No, and in fact, if you think about it, YouTube channels, especially the big ones, they get a lot more views than regular TV channels. A lot more. You might get 1 million, 2 million people on some TV shows, maybe more if it's really popular, but on YouTube, you can get 10, 20, 30 million. It's amazing. Yeah.
And I think the production values are getting better, and it's getting easier. There are a lot of tools that you can use to create some pretty decent quality YouTube stuff on your own without needing a whole lot of, kind of filmography experience. So it's been kind of fun to watch.
Now, in your career, as you got into e-learning and into instructional technology, did you get into instructional technology directly out of high school? Did you go into? Well, no, actually, you didn't, because you were doing the vocal performance. What made you go back to instructional technology?
Well, like I was saying, when I was at Lansing Community College teaching English as a second language, I think it was the Center for Teaching Excellence. It was kind of their in-house professional development group asked if I could put some of their courses online, So I got into it by just being asked, is this even possible? And can you figure out a way to do it? And so we took a look at their content, and I created some of the first e-learning, standalone kind of e-learning courses just to get their content online so that more faculty could take advantage of it. So that's how I got into it. And then I ended up back in graduate school and got my degree at Michigan State, adult education, but with that little minor in educational technology. And so it was always an interest of mine, like, can we do, how can we make e-learning better? I was used to read Michael Allen and Down with Boring E-Learning, and I'm very interested in, so in the early days, and even now, sadly, so many people do e-learning where it's incredibly linear. They're not taking advantage of the medium, and I'm like, if you're going to put your PowerPoint online and call it e-learning or build something that the only interaction is the next and back buttons, and, give me a PDF and I'll go to the beach and read it. Don't.
We've heard from so many people the same thing. They consider interaction a next and previous button. It's like, yeah, I guess it's an interaction, but it's not exactly compelling or engaging. I used to joke, a lot of the voiceover talents, they get funny sometimes. They'll say, click the next button to continue. Click the next button to continue. And that's in one course, they'll have 40 different ways to say click the next button to continue. It's absolutely hilarious because it's just boring. And you know what's sad? Every time we take out that click the next button to continue, we get phone calls. What are we supposed to do?
Oh my God.
Oh, it's true. We got one phone call once, and this was a doctorate, a PhD, working for a very large county. They called up and said, well, he's been sitting at his computer for an hour and a half, and he doesn't know what to do. An hour and a half, I'd fire him. Doctorate can't figure out what to do, like click the next button, which you've just done 40 times. No, it's scary.
Right.
It's actually scary that people really need to have all those cues, and you just go, why? My gosh. And sadly, it's not. It's the higher professionals, the ones who get stuck the most. Feed me. Tell me what to do.
But in a way, isn't it our own fault?
Oh, go ahead, Sergey.
I'm just trying to think out loud. Like, isn't it our own fault a little bit, where we kind of spoon feed people the information? We tell them what to click, we tell them what to do, and they get so used to it, they get sort of like hypnotized. So when it stops, when the guidance stops, they don't know what to do, because we sort of hypnotize them into that state where they only can do anything when they are following orders.
It could be, but like I said, at certain levels, you'd think a little more critical thinking would happen, but no. No. What's your experience?
I think that's part of the instructional design process too for e-learning, is really knowing your target audience. I learned that the hard way by putting in, one of the first courses I built when I worked for the state of Michigan was something that had arrows and icons, but no text by those buttons. And I would get those phone calls from people out in local public health going, okay, how do I move forward in this course? And it seems so obvious to me, who's used to the medium, but then I realized, for this audience, I'm going to need to put the word next on top of the next graphic. You can't assume that people are going to know what your icons mean. And versus like other audiences, they're insulted if you have text. Of course they know what that means, or they don't have to know what that means because they've got no fear of pushing every button until something happens.
Yeah.
I was on a plane once, and I was watching this really elderly lady trying to work out how the entertainment system works in the plane, transatlantic. And I watched her for like 20 minutes, maybe longer, to the point where it was like embarrassing to even start talking to her about it, because she would understand I'd been observing for like half hour. But it was really interesting to see how she was reacting to the interface. She couldn't figure it out. Obviously, the interface itself was quite terrible, as they usually are on entertainment systems and planes. But I was really surprised to see how people can treat something that we take for granted in an entirely different manner. For example, she ignored all icons, but she only tried to touch pictures. So whenever you had a picture, be it a background picture or a logo, she would try to click that or touch it. But if there was an icon, she would be just completely blind to it. And of course, the whole interface was icon-based and so on. So yeah, you have to know your audience. You have to pilot the courses. You have to test them before you roll it out. But yeah, sometimes people are really surprising.
And it's funny, you think it'd be something simple, and yet it is simple, and it's amazing how many people get stuck without the directions. It's we've been doing this for over 20 years, and it never changes. It's every time we think we can back it off a little bit, we get the calls. Can you give us more direction, because we don't know what we're doing. Okay. And like I said, it can come from anybody and anyone at any one time. we've had at least 2 people sitting literally for 90 minutes waiting for prompts. I had one client said, can you make the button just glow on and off, on and off? But one more thing. And we said, what's that? Can you give it a sonar sound? Okay. So it's like, boom, boom. Now that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, I'd break my computer.
But you know, it's amazing. They had 3,500 people loving that little sonar sound.
Wow.
It's a little scary.
Well, that's another thing about, you know, exploiting this medium, right? Is you can provide a choice. You could make your course, you know, to want buttons or icon. I mean, you could literally put that in using variables or something, so that people can manage the way that they learn, which is kind of an adult learning thing anyway. So I mean, you have those options. You could probably make it as slick or as not slick as you wanted to.
That's true. Now, how did you get into Lectora?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I ended up, and I should say, we mentioned that I probably have to say this, you know, I work for the CDC, but I'm really representing myself here, and anything we say is not any sort of an endorsement of any vendor or product.
Right.
But Lectora was something that I discovered when I was working for the state of Michigan, and we were implementing a new learning management system for preparedness courses called TRAIN. And TRAIN is now in like 27 states or something like that, as well as we have CDC TRAIN. And we were looking for an authoring tool that was going to help us build some e-learning. You know, we looked at Blackboard, we looked at Angel, which is similar to Blackboard. We looked at all kinds of different things. And our constraint in government is that we are required to be 508 compliant, or have our courses be accessible on the web to as many folks as can be. There's a lot of rules. That's another day and a half for us to talk about accessibility, but that was one of the requirements, and there just frankly aren't that many authoring tools that have features that allow for accessibility. So this was one. I also needed to pick something. I was the only sort of technology nerd in the office. Everyone else was public health people, so I needed to pick a tool that was relatively easy to learn. You know, it's very robust. It can take a while to kind of get mastery, but it's not that hard to learn. And so I wanted something that other people besides me could learn and could use. And so we experimented with Lectora, realized that Travanis, their parent company, was in the same town as KMI, the parent company of TRAIN. Got those guys talking, and so they created some kind of back-end code so that if we developed a course, any TRAIN administrator in public health developed a course in Lectora, it could automatically publish to TRAIN. Nice. So it ended up being a tool that was just a real perfect fit for us for all of those reasons.
That's great. Yeah, they have a great team at Lectora. The developers are really good, and John Blackman, who's the CTO, he's always got something down the horizon. I love John. He's always very innovative.
But they're super responsive to, you know, if we had questions about something, and you all have probably noticed that the 508 features have really improved exponentially. I think I was at the very first Lectora user conference, 2003 maybe.
Okay.
So, and we've worked a lot with them. A developer on my team, Rhonda, she and I had created one of the first 508 templates. If you guys see a 508 template in your Lectora bunch of templates, that's one of the old ones that we'd actually created and passed along to share. So, and I did, Lectora Online was a new product, and I was experimenting with how do I get this to be more 508. It's a little bit different than, it doesn't have the, you know, automatic gray out for things to get you in trouble. So I was trying to navigate that. Did a presentation and said, hey, you know, this could use some work, or I discovered this thing, and next thing I know, version 3.3 is out, fixing all those problems. So that's been really great that they're very, very responsive to, you know, the needs and of their customers. But not only that, I know 508 is not particularly sexy. It's a constraint that's very hard to work around. We really put a lot of development time into making sure our stuff is accessible to everybody, which is very important. But it's a tiny, you know, it's a tiny portion of the population that's going to care. So it's nice when a product is willing to kind of focus on something that's really a very tiny market share.
You mentioned Lectora convention, so how many LUCs have you been to?
I was at the first one, and then let's see, I think I've been to like 3, including last year's, and I'll go again this year.
Oh, good. We'll see you over there then.
Are you going to speak this year again? Because I know you've spoken at the last 2, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. And then I met Sergey. We had a chance to chat about Branch Track, which is a super cool program that we're very excited to test and to try to use.
And we are moderately 508 compliant as well.
We're working on it. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And it's a neat product because we do a lot with training epidemiologists. And if you're an epidemiologist, you're asking a lot of questions. So a program like Branch Track that offers you a chance to practice, interviewing people on foodborne illness or whatever, that's exactly the kind of thing that would work really well in our courses. So we're excited to work with you too.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm going to talk about it obviously at LUC as well. So if anyone watching this is interested in knowing about Branch Track, come to LUC. That's the best way to meet Karen and myself, and probably Rick. Rick, you are coming, right?
I'm coming and I'm presenting also.
Excellent. What are you going to talk about? I'm
talking about audio. It's kind of an audio basics for people who want to get into audio. We'll talk about microphones, preamplifiers. It's a little techy, but it's also a little bit about how to use audio in e-learning. We'll talk a little bit about editing. It's a lot to talk about in an hour, but we'll try to get as much into it as possible.
Do you use audio like voiceovers in your courses at CDC, Karen?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do you use a lot of voiceover in the courses that you build?
We do, actually not all of them. Some of them we build in Captivate and turn to the computer narration voices that we can use there, especially if we have content that's rapidly changing. That's an easier fix for us. We do a lot of voiceover. I'm one of the CDC voice talents, actually. So as a matter of trivia, if you go and listen to one of the first Ebola podcasts we threw out there, that was actually my voice. So we have a lot of people at CDC who go in and do voiceovers for various projects and products. And of course, we've got people who speak lots of different languages, so we do a lot of translation work or narration in other languages as needed. So if you're ever scouring the CDC YouTube channel, you might hear a familiar voice.
That's fun. Do you like doing the voiceover?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I joke I'm kind of the Morgan Freeman of the Centers for Disease Control. Pixar would never hire me because I don't do a lot of voice actory stuff, but the smooth narrator kind of voice, that's what people seem to want my voice for. So it's been really interesting.
That's great. That's fun. Yeah, voiceover is fun.
Yeah, I seem to have a knack. Excuse me. I seem to have a knack for getting through a script in one take. And so, when Ebola was crashing down upon us, and they needed someone who could get something out quickly, that's why I got that phone call. She might not be great, but she can get through the script. So, but it's a lot of fun.
Now, are presenting at the LUC this year?
Yes, I'm actually going to be co-presenting with Dan, and I think it's Dan Richards. And he's actually at a nearby private company, and they do a lot also with accessibility.
Great. Yeah, I remember we interviewed him about several months ago. Really nice guy.
Yeah, seems really nice. We've talked on the phone a couple times, and we're going to co-present and talk about 508 and tips and tricks, and your course does not have to be lame just because it's compliant, and things you can do to stay 508 compliant and yet still make it interactive and interesting for all audiences.
Now, it's fun. We did a project for a large county, and they were doing a disaster worker training thing because every member of a county technically is also a disaster worker during an emergency. They get called out to help and guide traffic or bring people to shelters, whatever is needed. And they said they wanted 508 compliance. And my comment was 508 compliance? They go, yes, for visual. And I go, now you do realize you're training disaster workers here, and you're not going to have a semi-blind person or a blind person guiding people. And they went, good point, forget the 508. And they actually got rid of it. So...
Yeah, I think it really depends. And remember, 508 is not just about, folks that are visually impaired.
No, it isn't. But in this
508
case, that's
covers-
what they wanted. It was sort of funny. And I went, wait a minute. These are people who are going to be, you're teaching them how to guide people to different areas. It's going to be really hard for somebody who can't see to do that. And they went, good point. All right, let's move on. And
yeah, if you can get exemptions. If you've got, like, for example, even at CDC, we've got OSHA, which does a lot of the mine safety training. Well, they've done it in VR, virtual reality.
Interesting.
You put the thing on, you go through the mine. Well, they can do that, and it's not 508 compliant because you're not sending people into a mine that are visually impaired.
Right.
So if you know, or, working with the military, like, you're not going to visually impaired fighter jet pilots. So, if you know your audience and you can show, document that your audience is not in need of a particular accommodation, then yeah, you can do that.
That's good.
Yeah, 508 compliance is such a huge topic, and I didn't know much about it before I got into e-learning and e-learning development. And I think what kind of a layperson from the corporate world understands about WCAG and 508 is quite different from what it actually is. I mean, it's not just about subtitles, or it's not about just screen readers or blind people, but there's a whole range of disabilities that you can cater for, and in many cases with quite little effort as well. So you don't have to go to great length to make a course accessible. In most cases, you just have to output good code that would read itself in a logical order instead of a hot mess on screen that would confuse anyone, including the screen readers. But surprisingly, not every learning tool does that.
Well, I'm not sure. One of you may have speakers on. We're getting a lot of echo.
Not me, I'm on your
I'm hearing the echo on something.
Actually, I'm hearing you both kind of break up a little bit. So I'm kind of nodding.
Unless we're getting just some Skype noise, which we may be. Skype is wonderful that way. Actually, in the very near future, we're going to be able to make phone calls, actually, a Skype call without Skype. So we're looking forward to that, because the software we're using right now is called vMix, and they came out with a thing called vMix Call. All you need is either Firefox or Google Chrome, and you can call somebody, have perfect video, perfect audio, no Skype. So we're going to be trying that next week. Let's see if that works. Yeah, Skype. I love Skype, but it's also it's our friend and our enemy. It's both. It's a pain sometimes, especially with latency. We get all sorts of funny stuff out of Skype.
I can see people using Zoom increasingly.
Zoom? Yeah, I haven't tried Zoom.
Yeah, I've tried Zoom. Somebody's, and I think we're part of the Amazing Learning Consortium. Their next thing, they're going to experiment with Zoom, and before they've used Adobe Connect and Google Chat, and kids and I have iPhones, so we can FaceTime. So many platforms. They're always Snapchatting. And
Yeah,
doing
that's
There's
good.
so many platforms for that direct communication.
Yeah, well, we are at the end of our time. So, Karen, we definitely look forward to seeing you at the LUC. I know Sergey and I are both going to have tables out there. We're going to be doing shows live at the show. So if you want to come by and say hi, we'll put you back on live again. And but definitely, because I didn't see you last time. I may have seen you in person, but I don't think we got to meet last time. We were over there. We had to figure out a way to hide the cameras.
That's usually how people find me. But yeah, I'm around, and although I've probably used up like 6 months worth of introversion quotient for being out in public like this. So we'll see if I've got a little bit to spare come May for the conference.
You'll be fine.
If you see me, anyone out there is there at the conference, I'd be very happy to say hi and chat some more.
Cool, that'll be great. So we look forward to seeing you there, Sergey. I know we'll be talking over there too, and he'll be doing some great presentations. And definitely go visit, take a look at Branch Track. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to use, and it's fun. And for all you people watching, it's only less than 3 weeks. It's about 3 weeks to the LUC, so 3.5 weeks. So definitely come. It's fun. You'll have a good time. You'll learn a ton, and the people are nice. You can't beat that. And I heard Cincinnati's a really pretty town too. I've never been there. I've driven through it, but I've never actually stopped. So this time, it'll be fun to actually stay there. And everybody said the river area is really pretty, and should be nice. Should be nice. So anyway, Karen, thanks again for coming on today. We look forward to chatting some more later on. And Sergey, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Karen, for joining.
Thanks, bye.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Okay, and it's a soundless